Tēnā koutou, e te whare nei. Ki a koutou nā kaumatua, he tino mihi ki a koutou. Nā Pākeke me nā tauira o te Wānanga o Raukawa. Tēnei te mihi. Ko Taranaki tōku maunga, I reira tōku awa ko Waiwa Kaiho, ko Te Atiawa me Taranaki me Ngāti Ruanui oku iwi no reira, ko Pounamu Skelton tōku ingoa. Ko tēnei taku māma, ko Moana Skelton, no tūkorehi hapu, tūkorehi marae, ko te whanau wei pai ana, no reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm an alumni, I'm a graduate of way back in 2000 of Te Wānanga o Raukawa. It was certainly a pivotal moment that changed my life into a new pathway, into the mahi of our tupuna of Te Ao Māori. So today we get to explore in a really interesting kaupapa around Maramataka. So firstly, how many do we have in the room that, you know, have some relationship with the marama in everyday life, monthly life? All the wahine should put their hands up. Tēnā koutou. So my journey's been around reconnecting back to Papa Tuanuku. And through the journeys of starting to mahi Māra, I've also been really well informed, I suppose, about tuning into our great marama in Nanginui. And through some of these lessons, you know, it's really informed the way and the timing mainly around when to sow the seed, when to take the hauhake, the harvest. And definitely I'm not an expert, but hey, this is a lifetime learning and journey. And I really see Maramataka mahi is like every season you get to grow kai, you get to learn a little bit more. You get to be a really good tohunga or observer of the tai ao. And today we're going to spend a bit of time talking about that. So in this karakia here, we're kind of at the end of koanga, but it talks about waiting for the Manu, waiting for the pipi whāroa. So ka tangi te kawe kawea. Ka tangi te kawe kawea waiho kia tangi ana. Ka tangi te whāroa waiho kia tangi ana. E tātari ana kia aroaro mahana ka taka mai a uru koia. So we've been waiting, well, it's been and gone now, but as the koanga springs into life, bursts forth with growth, we wait for the Manu to call. The pipi whāroa at home, and wherever you live, you'll have your own Manu that tells you it's the tohu that it's ready. The whenua is ready, it's ready to get out and dig. So although we feel like miles away down here on Papa Tuanuku, our marama has massive influence over us. And we're going to explore some of those things in the next half hour. So in this beautiful traditional maramataka, these have been left for us to decipher, to really pick up the mātauranga and put it into action. So it's a way of telling our time. So often the marama takes like between about 28 to 31 days to move around, and an average of about 29.5 days. In this very traditional maramataka, the black lines always talk about the hiika or the black or the good times to fish. And then the dots are all about tuna. So when's the good time to get tuna? So from my learning so far, Maramataka has been a really amazing tool to enact, to enable around observation and changes in our tai ao. So from my experience, I've realized that Maramataka is mātauranga in practice, but it's no good if we're just learning. If this is the lecture that you learn, but you don't actually do anything. It's time to act, it's time to put it into practice so that learning can be embedded into your tinana and can become part of everyday life. So some of the very first things we need to start being aware of is ngā tohu o te wā. So depending on where you live, will vary on the tohu that turn up in your backyard, in your front yard, in your taiao. So for example, we all know, what does the pūtikawa represent? What do we then associate something in Tangaroo with? Fat, kina, ai. So all of these tohu have been, that show up in the taiao give us information about, hey, it's also pūtikawa's arrived. Yes, it's the Māori Christmas tree, but it's also when Tangaroo's gifts are bearing with the kina. That beautiful tui that is in the harakeke flower, you know, it's after that sweet nectar. That if you get a chance through the raumati season this year to put your own little tongue in there and taste the sweet nectar, what the Manu is bringing out for sustenance, for kai, for a little bit of a lift of sweet water. And of course, we've been through the flowering of the kohai, which actually informs us at home in Taranaki, hey, actually it's ready to get your Māra ready. So ngā tohu o te wā, really important. So it's important that you become aware of what's happening in your backyard. You just have to be a tohunga of your own place so that you're getting informed when is the right time to do things. This beautiful kōrero from Reriata Makiha is talking about observing closely, not just the rākau, but what's going on in the awa, also what's showing up in the moana. A tupuna were able to identify optimal days of when to do certain activities. So whether it was whakatoa kai, planting of your kai, hiika, fishing, or perhaps it was the time for hauhake. It's also an indication of when your energy is high, and actually we've just come through a rākau nui, so we should still be on that little bit of high energy, plenty of, you know, brain power going on, the body's wanting to work. And then actually when it's low times, when it's time to be contemplative, time to be internal, time to be mindful and meditative, time to reflect. So all of these energies that are flowing with the marama help to inform us how to keep our hau ora, our well-being full, how to reset, how to let go, how to activate. So Reriata talks about the maramataka as being a tool and a survival kit, which was brought upon to Aotearoa on the waka, essential knowledge about how to survive. Now, we've been through a crisis, and I believe we're still there, so we need to know how to thrive. So we need to know these things so we can build our knowledge. And actually, the biggest thing is to realign with the environment. No wonder so many of us are unwell, because we've been following the Gregorian calendar, which is out of sync with our natural world. It's out of sync with our DNA of our tupuna, which resides within us. And so we're out of alignment, which causes illness and health that's not thriving. So as the phenomenon of the moon coming closer to Papatuanuku, towards the earth, it has this incredible magnetic pull. You know this stuff. And it's able to pull that massive body of water, Tangaroo, from into the high tides, into the low tides. So as we're becoming more aware of those cycles, just think about yourself. 70% of you is water. A lot of your brain is actually why. All the way down your spinal cord is bathed in why, water. So actually, you know what? If the moon is pulling all of that water, it is also pulling the waters within you. And that has effect on how we feel, how much energy we have, the times that we release, all of the stuff. So every marama has a kānohi, I call it, has a different face. And I think when you start to journey into Maramataka is that actually you've got to get outside and you've got to look up. You've got to start to decipher what face has been expressed in the evening, in the pō. So with each kānohi of the marama has its own unique qualities. And this is the mātauranga part that you want to tune into, so that it can influence as a tangata what we do, what activities take place. It's a really powerful tool to kind of harness. And you're not going to learn it through a book or through a lecture like this, but you're really going to learn it once you step outside and start to observe the marama. Now, a lot of people ask me, gosh, which maramataka do I follow? There's ample, there's loads of them. So my only advice is actually follow one only. If you happen to have a whanau one or a hapu iwi one, great. Bring that out, put it somewhere where you can see it every day and follow that. Because once you start to switch going, oh, this one and then this one, and you'll get really confused. I know, because I've done that. So just choose one. And even if it's not from your rohi, pai tēnā, just follow it and get to know the layers by observing your own taiao. Oh, aroha mai, here's my sacred maunga o Taranaki, but it's going through the different stages of the seasons, a mata o te tau. So we've just coming out of the koanga, where we've got a little bit of hukapapa still, a little bit of snow still on our maunga. And as we move further into Raumati, our maunga will have kore snow, it'll be bare, and then we know the tohu of Ngā Uru has arrived when there's the first snowfall. And then, of course, in the middle of a hotoki, covered. So the point of this slide is what is all the mata in your area? What does your maunga show you, your awa show you for each of the seasons that are occurring? So the moon, marama informs us the best days to plant. So if you want to have a bountiful Māra, grow lots of kai, lots of puti puti, lots of herbs, lots of rongoa, then it's a really great tool to kind of get to know and to embody. I've spoken a little bit about the tides and the high energy days and the effect that it has on us as people. So yeah, who has felt kind of really invigorated over the last 3 days? With the big rākau nui, who doesn't sleep on the rākau nui? Who's like wired? Oh, yep, all the wahine, of course. And who actually likes to sleep on rākau nui? So I'm one of those beings too. I'm like the opposite. Like to have a good old moe during rākau nui while actually lots of other people are up. So it's really good to understand, you know, how are you affected by all of the big surges, the big energies of the marama. So two really important marama to put on your Gregorian calendar is the whiro, the start of the cycle, the start of the Maramataka, and then the full moon, the rākau nui. Okay, if we just start with those two, at least there's an awareness, hey, there's big energies coming. There's highs and there's lows coming. So there's 3 really dark nights, Omotu, Mutuwhenua, and Whiro. So that's the time when they're actually kore marama. The sky is black, it's really dark. And so when it's really dark, it's a beautiful time to really come inside, to go inside yourself, to dive deep into contemplation, to do reflection, to do, you know, kōrero that's our whanau. It's not a great time to be in the Māra. It's a good time to kind of reset, actually, and to be quiet. And you definitely don't want to have a hui with your boss on those 3 days. The energy is not great. So thinking about 2 days before whiroo. It's quiet time, not a good time to negotiate something that you want to influence, a good time to be contemplative. After the full moon, and this is where we're coming into actually this week, okay? Full moon was Wednesday, Raunui. And actually what happens is Papatūānuku draws in, breathes in, and draws down. So actually activating all of the root vegetables is a great time, okay? There's lots of activity happening under, in the soil. It's a great time to take cuttings. Have you been eyeing up someone's beautiful tree or something? Good time to do the cuttings. Great time to actually transplant, you know, from your tipu. Also really good time to be hohaki of root crops, such as your beetrooti, karoti, parsnips, all those things. And then also a good time to prune fruit trees. So if we think about fruit trees, you know, all of their splendor in their branches with their fruit and their leaves. So when it's low energy and pushing down, all of the sap's gone down into the trunk and into its roots. It's a really good time to not do damage to a fruit tree. Okay, so this is the period now. We've just had our Raunui. We're 2 days after. Good time to do all this kind of mahi. So this is Taranaki Tiatiawa Maramataka. This is my local one. And I encourage you to find your own, your own whanau hapu iwi Maramataka. It hasn't been really well developed, but over the years, and it's probably 8 years I've been working with it now, we're starting to be informed by what are our best days for us. And what you'll notice mostly with tribal Maramataka is the language changes. The words sort of change. Some are the same and some are slightly different. What I really encourage you not to do is start to compare. It really does your head in. So there's certain days when we're informed by our Maramataka that, yep, it's time to sow seeds. And how I practice this is I get my Gregorian calendar and I just write big circles. Okay, these are the good days in the first 10 days of the Marama Cycle to do mahi mara. So actually out of the first 10 days there, look, there's only actually 3 days that are on. You can have the rest of the time off. So people always think, oh, growing kais takes up heaps of time. Actually, Kyle, it takes specific time. 3 of those days out of 10, it's awesome. So do something, whether it's sew that Cardinal, tidy up a little bit, rearrange, make a lasagna bed. So you've only got 3 out of 10 days that you really want to be specific on planting. Probably one of my favourite parts of the Maramataka, and some of you might agree, is Maafaru. So it's like the 12th face of the Marama cycle. So it's when we want to launch something new. It's when you want to pitch something to your partner. It's when you want to go and influence your boss with a proposal. It's something kind of new, and there's a readiness about Maafaru energy. Okay, great time to sow seeds. And in fact, on my calendar, this is always circled as well, because it's a great high energy day, and there's a likelihood of your tono to be accepted on Maafaru. Other great days is the Raunui, which we've just been through, Rako Mātoi, and the next day, Makiro Ma Ia. So we're in this stage right now. So the last, what's the day today? Friday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Today's a great day as well. So if you haven't quite got your Cardinal in, head home and do that. Okay. So this was interesting kōrero that I found around growing kumara, whakatō kumara. How many of us love growing kumara, eating kumara, harvesting kumara? Okay, so it's it's got a lot of mana. So actually, if you're going to put kumara in, say, on a takido mahia day, which is like today, and you're happy to have smaller kumara, which are ideal for sort of storage, then actually you'd put them in on this marama. If you want those bigger ones, then there's other days to do that. So depending on your own kind of hapu kōrero, it's always good to ask that. So I really love that actually our tupuna are that smart that they planted kumara on certain marama based on what they needed it for. Did they want the large ones for manaki tepu to share on the tepu at the marae? Or did they want a smaller one for more storage? Because actually a smaller kumara doesn't hold as much moisture, so therefore it stores over the cooler months and doesn't go pedal. So these are the things to kind of consider, like when you're starting to grow kai for your marae and for your hapori, or for just for yourself. Is what is the purpose? What's it going to be used for? Coming up next week, we've got to have this beautiful 5 days of gloriousness of the Tangaroo phase. So I love Tangaroo phase. So you get like 5 consecutive days and nights to actually get into action. And as busy human beings, we kind of need that many opportunities to get outside and do some mahi. So we call them the Tangaroa Piriamua. So it's the second maramas. Tangaroa Piri Roto Kio Ao Tāne, got the clue there, it's got the word Tāne in there, and Orongo Nui. So this is like, whole week of Māra Kai, yay. You can go hard, you can get lots of stuff done. So you've got to schedule it, If you want it done, you've got to schedule it, go right through this 5 days. There's seeds to be sown, transplanting to do, there's compost to turn, there's seaweed to collect. Yeah, so this is the opportunity through this beautiful Tangaroa phase. And those of you who get to hang out by Tangaroa a lot or live by Tangaroa, take note of what's going on in Tangaroa during this phase. A beautiful ritual that we've started is to do puria, which is like a releasing opportunity through the Tangaroa outgoing tides. So where you can reset once a month, let go of all of that stuff you've collected in your emotional body. It's time to let it go, give it back to Tangaroa. And we do that on the Tangaroa phase on an outgoing tide, preferably at sunrise. So lining up all of the elements, so that you've got the energy of Tamanui Te Rā, the Maramataka, the marama, and then the energy of Tangaroo. And these are ways to recharge ourselves, to take the sovereignty back over our hauora, to reset, to let go of things that no longer serve us. I'm just going to zip to here. So this is kind of what's going on in this month at the moment. So things to note when you're starting to engage with the marama. Always go for get familiar with the full moon and new moon. So do your whole 12 months in your calendar, just a big circle or whatever, like highlight, so that they're in, so that you're aware as you're planning your month. Okay. Best day for planting this month. So we've missed half of this. We are up to Takido. So next Wednesday, whanau, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. When you get Monday, you've got a massive opportunity to mahi Māra. So wherever you're up to, if you haven't quite got those kumara in yet, or been meaning to put your taiwa in, or to sow those kākano, this is the chance, Aotearoa wiki, to actually do some action. Okay? And then you have another beautiful day of tamatia on the Wednesday. Okay? Some things to think about at the moment in your Maara Kai will be to prepare your kumara beds, okay? So if you haven't already got them in, well, you need to get cracking. Continue to plant out your taiwa. So if you want taiwa, whanau's coming in January or over the Christmas period, you might be a bit late for Christmas, but in the holiday season, then you want to get your taiwa in now. They take about 90 to 100 days. The thing with abundance is we have to keep sowing seed, okay? Every 2 weeks, we need to be sowing some kind of kākano to ensure that we've always got continuous kai. So right now is optimum opportunity, you know? Mahana te whenua, the airspace is warm, the marama's all lined up. So, you know, you almost got like 100% money back guarantee kind of situation. We know we're in for a very hot summer. So we want to start to collect wai. You can do that just in a barrel of rainwater. If you're fortunate enough to live close to Tangaroo, collect some seaweed so that you can start to create your own fertilizers for your Māora. Using the energy from Tangaroo, the gifts of the seaweed, and then the roi mata from Ruanui. Hello, beautiful, non-expensive, very life-giving natural fertilizer. Okay. And then there's a little sequence that happens. You know, whakatoa, kākano, then you've got a transplant, and then boom, into your Māora. And that carries on through all of this beautiful warmth of the season, so that you'll have plenty of hauhake through the summer months. Okay. You're not really my students, I won't give you all of these. But we'll go back to a pretty picture. So what I want to just add to this is the 2 quarters of the Maramataka cycle. Okay, so we've got our whirl that starts the cycle off. Beautiful time to reset and be contemplative. And if you think of the time between whirl, new moon, and then Raunui, there's a lot of energy growing through that period of time. Okay, so it's planning out, okay, how am I going to utilize this natural energy? You know, it's like it's such a blessing and a gift to be able to tap into all of that moon energy. So as we get through to the first quarter, Maafaru, wow, she's all on then. And then from Maafaru through to Raunui, beautiful time to be really active, activated. Get those plans done, have those hui, you know, do your Wānanga, like do all the stuff that's required for that that month. And then from Raunui, so now we're in this waning stage when we've peaked, and we get a little bit of generosity both sides of the Raunui to still be active. Then we're going to go into a bit more of a contraction stage, okay, where the energy starts to contract. You can feel papatuanuku like drawing down. It's the same with our cells. So what are activities that help you draw down deeper into yourself? You know, some of those conversations that you have to have. Maybe it's more of a deeper contemplation about a take or something, or a kaupapa, until we get to Tangaroo phase. And then there's this beautiful 5 days of opening of marvelous high energy again, before we close up again and contract into the 3 dark nights. So we're no different really from nature, right? We're nature beings. We've just disconnected from it. And so as nature contracts and opens, so do we. And we bring in activities that resemble that. Because we've been following this crazy thing called the Gregorian calendar, where it actually just says go, 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 until you get to Christmas. Oh, you can have a rest now. You know, it's crazy. And it's not actually serving us very well. You know, the rates of mental health and anxiety are off the Richter. And it's because we're not aligned back to our natural being, back to who we truly are, back to the ways of our tupuna. So if there's any gem from this kōrero, is to do what you can and mark it in your calendar, on your phone or whatever you use, to be reminded of these really pivotal moments through the whole of the Maramataka. Whiro, Maafaru, Ruanui, and the start of the Tangaroo phase. And then put some activities that best suit those energies, okay? And so then when you get to the 3 dark nights, you can contract, reset, let go of, be reflective, ready for the opening again, and away we go again. So I hope that kind of makes sense. I feel like when you start to practice, and I'll tell you, just finish up with one story. So I used to be a real willy-nilly kind of gardener, just chuck some seeds in when I had a spare hour and, you know, hope for the best. And then I decided, okay, well, let's test out this Maramataka kōrero. When are the best days to sow the seed? And so I did that. So chose the right marama, popped the Cardinal in, the temperature was right, the situation was right, the seed tray was in a nice warm place, had a little spritzer of water. I thought, kapai, did my karakia, and off I go. Came back the next day, look at that, germination. It was amazing. Like within one whole cycle of the night, those Cardinal had germinated. It blew my mind. So all of this kind of theory, we've got to practice it. So then it makes it real. And then you can come from that place, you know. This is applied mātauranga. It's not just an idea. So now it becomes a tikanga, the way that I do plant seeds, you know, forever and more, because I know that it works. And so, yeah, I encourage you, put those dates on the calendar because you'll forget, I guarantee. There'll be something that turns up in life, you'll get taken off track, and then you hello, those seeds are still sitting in your cupboard, not planted, no kai, hungry. Okay, so I think I'm feel like I'm at a good place to complete. But yeah, just wanted to open it up, pass it back to Pātaka. He's going to take some pātai, make sure they're easy.
Tēnā koe Pounamu, i o kōrero, I tēnei rā. I'd just like to see if we have some questions. Now we have some online participants, and so I'd urge them to ask questions in the chat, and we also have some questions from the room, so we'll just go one for one. Firstly, we have a question from the room. Pounamu.
I knew she would ask something.
Is it working? Okay. Ngā mihi motu kōrero. I just had a question regarding things outside experiences that may affect you, that you will change the way that you act around a certain marama. An example. So my daughter, who is 1, likes to be awake on the Ruanui, whereas I do not. But as her mother, I am the person who gets up to her and is also awake with her for 3 hours. I was just wondering, and so as a result, I get very tired afterwards. So those days that are supposed to be really high energy, I'm quite low energy. What what does that look like, and what things can I do, or what can we do that would, like, do we just choose those days as low energy days, or what are your whakaaro around that?
Kia ora. And bless you as a as a mama who has to get up. I mean, our tamariki are like very open to all of the energies. So I think we use them as a learning tool. You know, is it a kōtero? She's responding to the energy of the marama. I mean, how amazing. You've got your own like mātauranga in front of you. So sometimes we've got to flip I'm so tired to, look, my daughter's like really responding. What I've done when I've been awake is actually go and do something. So maybe it's go and do something with her, you know, like her favorite activity. Because eventually the brain will get to a point where it will want to, rest. So instead of that lying awake in bed, whanau, I'm awake, damn, I'm awake. Actually, it's better to get up and do something, knock out something. For our tamariki, I think she's a learning tool for you. She's actually so sensitive to the marama that she's showing you, hey, actually, Mum, we should be planting seeds right now. Imagine that, just test it out. I'm a lover of plant medicine, so I tend to reach for different kinds of things that help us relax the brain, to turn off the chatter. So things like chamomile help, diffusing beautiful relaxing essential oils. So even if she's awake but she's relaxed, that's better than being awake and boisterous, you know. So it's kind of making the most of the awakeness. But if it's in your whare where everyone else is asleep, like try and keep her, nice and relaxing music. I mean, maybe you could teach her how to meditate. Imagine that. Your little precious taonga became really good at being mindful through those surges of energy. But I think it's remarkable. You've got this beautiful child that's sensitive to energy. So she's showing you, actually. Aroha mai mama. You've got this.
Kia ora, Pounamu. We have a question from our online crew, one from Shah Mawati Davis.
Oh, kia ora.
Can you please share your experience around how to seed save and retain the whakapapa of Cardinal?
Pai tēnā pātai. So certain times of the season for growing kai, and usually at home it's March, April, May, we save the seed of the Cardinal. So why is this important? It's super important to reclaim the sovereignty over our Cardinal. If you start to dive into this topic, you'll realize that actually multi-corporations have got the control over all of the Cardinal. So it's really important as us, as whanau Māori, that we take back that sovereignty and we start to learn how to save seed. So usually seed saving happens in Nauru. And I'll grow kai that's taonga kai, especially just for seed. So sometimes, like, I know there was a bit of a, so say for kumara, let's talk about our taonga kai. When we're harvesting, there'll be kumara for our kaumatua, the big ones for the tepu that I talked about earlier. There'll be kumara that's a little bit nicked or a little bit damaged, so that's for eating straight away. And then there'll be kumara which are for storage. Okay, so they become your seed for the next season. This means that you don't have to depend on anyone else for your Cardinal, because you're starting to build your pātaka of Cardinal. So this is the cycle back to taking sovereignty over our own kai, and seed saving is one of those things. What we can also do is like have a dedicated mara bed to seed saving, so allow some of those kai to go through their full cycle, and do not be tempted to eat it, just allow it to do its full thing and then take the seed. So there'll be times in my garage where there's seeds like coriander and herbs that are drying upside down, and they're drying. And actually, then we're collecting them. I use kind of an old paper bag to collect the seed. So that actually, hey, next season I've got Cardinal for myself, but actually I've got heaps to share in the community as well. Was there another part to that part?
Yeah. He pātai anō ki konei. Does Te Waka Kai Ora promote the use of Maramataka Māori, and if so, how?
If you've got He Reko Te Kai, the Maramataka is in there. I've been teaching Maramataka for about 8 years at home through the Kai Oranga program. It comes up in some of the other puka that we've put out. Absolutely, we're reminding our whanau to come back to the taiao, back to natural ways of living, and Maramataka is a massive part of that. I think there was a pātai up the back.
Oh, yeah.
The matua. Oh, no.
Tēnā koe, Pounamu.
Koe.
Ngā mihi nui mō tō kōrero. My kōrero, my pātai is in relation to things that might happen locally here in Otaki. We're having conversations as hapu and iwi about the potential use of some of the land holdings that we have. And in just really preliminary conversations, the ability to produce kai and teach people how to produce kai has come up. So with your work for Te Waka Kai Ora and with Hua Parakore, what would be, because we're obviously thinking, whilst we want to support people to produce kai themselves at home, there's also a manaakitanga potential to produce at a bigger scale than just for your home. So what in the work of Te Waka Kai Ora would be some examples of the scale at which you can do this type of growing, and particularly with Maramataka, so you've made it really clear that it's about doing things at the right time. And I imagine that might get a little trickier or complex as the scale gets bigger. I don't know, maybe it makes it easier. So yeah, if you could just reflect on beyond just the home growing, what the potential is when you've got a little bit bigger bit of land to play with.
Kia ora. I love home growing gardens, and that's where I spend a lot of my time teaching our whānau how to grow kai. I think it all starts at home, and there's nothing more enriching to walk outside and go, hey, I'll just pick this, and then next minute it's on the plate, you know, and you're feeding your whānau. So I think that's the first thing, is actually we need to be able to feed ourselves, and it starts in the kāinga. Once we've kind of established that, and you've got access to bigger whenua, well then actually you need a really core group and potentially someone that's paid to be able to coordinate. So I don't think it really matters what scale when you bring in the Maramataka. In fact, all of your planning hui could be done on those key times anyway. So once a month, if you're meeting, you know, make it Maafaru or just before the rākau nui. What happens though with gardeners, you never see them in the Tangaroo phase or those real key times. They're gone. They're in their Māra. Okay, so you want to like tap into the energy when it's high for people when you're in the ideas space. You know, so people have got lots of energy and they're not falling asleep, they're not hoha or being in a hui. And traditionally, we've always done it during the puanga matariki period of time, our planning. And the reason is because we're not in the Māra. You know, I never go to Kai Māra during the summer because I know they're really, and spring actually, they're really full on doing the mahi. So big plots of land, yeah, I think we need paid gardeners because actually it's people that get stuff done. You know, you can have a beautiful plan, but then it's the execution where it often falls down. So we've been working with marae mara, whanau land pieces, where they're starting to look at what they can do further. Big maras and Whanganui on the Wairarapa, where they're vegetable growers and they're a collective of whanau. So I think mara are a really good space to be orderly, you know, like we know when the pipi whārauro arrives, then it's on, you know, you've got to be planting seeds, kakano at that time and every 2 weeks after that. So that's easy to create your management plan. You know, and there'll come a time where, okay, we've got enough seed sowing, we've got enough seedlings, and then we're filling our Maara Kai, and then we've got the harvest. So actually my whole life revolves around the growing season. And then I know, hey, it comes to puanga, time out, you know, actually we're going to have the rest of a month or so because we put the Maara to bed. So actually I think the Maramataka really informs how you plan your big land plots. And really happy to, I don't know, I'm sure you've got plenty of expertise in this rohi to really support that. That's so awesome. We have to return back to whatever whenua we have to grow kai. You know, there's opportunities to have a circular economy happening, to be able to, you know, to be able to provide our whānau with really high quality, nutrient dense fruit and vegetables and taonga kai that we haven't been eating. Because actually what Percy used to say, if we change the palate of our next generation, well then they'll want some of the bitter foods that our grandparents used to eat instead of all of the sweet stuff that we've been colonized with, you know. So I can't wait to see what happens. We have to come back to the whenua. That is where we will heal, not only papatūnuku, but our gut health and our hinenaro, and we'll reconnect to Wairua, to the ways of our tupuna, so that actually we can really thrive.
Tēnā koe Pounamu. One final question here from the online team. Can you share any learnings for marae or hapu that you have gained through establishing the Tātai Tangata ki te Whenua Taranaki Wikai Sovereignty Program?
Kia ora. So very privileged to work with Taranaki iwi. So that's our coastal iwi along Taranaki. One of their strategies was to reconnect our whānau back to Maara Kai. And so this is our second season now, where I've been running I think it's about 40 weeks, through the growing season, teaching our whānau, no matter where they live, how to grow kai. So I've got whānau that are in Perth, and some in Invercargill, some way up north, they're all over the show. And we do gather on Huitupa Zoom, and we share kōrero about growing kai. They receive a resource pack, which helps get them started. So when you're new to growing kai, you don't know really what to do. You know, you're not quite sure. So we make it easy for them. They receive a beautiful workbook that takes them through the season based on the Maramataka. So I always launch the program on which marama? Maafaru. Okay, so we always make sure that if we're going to launch, it's on the right marama. And then I teach that, you know, like why. You know, so if people are planning a wedding or something, that they get the timing right for their own event. Yeah. And then we try and meet on the huitupa, on the right moon. Because actually, if you've been to those hui where everyone's just tired and it's lethargic and the energy's low, you know, he momo wā. You know, you want to really actually feel inspired. Leave that hui tupa feeling inspired with, you know, hope and potential that actually I can go and create abundance in my own backyard. So it's a beautiful little program. I feel really grateful and privileged. And actually what our whānau say is the whakawhanaungatanga is really strong, even if it's in a virtual space. You know, they get to see their cousins and get to know each other. It doesn't matter where they live. because we gather together with a kaupapa, which is bigger than ourselves, which is the wisdom of our tupuna around growing kai.
Tēnā koe Pounamu, I era kōrero au I tēnei rā, tēnā no hoki kōrua, ko tō māma, I hara mai nei tēnei rā ki te kōrero kia mātou, o te Wānanga o Raukawa o tira, ki o tātou manuhiri ki runga I te rorohiko nei. Just a warm thank you for coming along and travelling all this way today, spending the day with us, giving this kōrero and answering our questions. I'd like us all to join and say thanks.
Go forth, grow food.
Kapa, we're just going to quickly announce our winners of our prize packs for today. So our online winner, who was the 10th person to come into the online space, is Margaret Winiata. And she has information about how to receive her pack. And then our winner for in-face delivery was to our 10th person who arrived, who just happens to be our mama, who has been having some troubles during Ruanui. No chamomile in their fire, but we hope you enjoy it. I'll hand it back over to Pat.
Just before we close the day, I just wanted to acknowledge the speakers over the last 2 weeks, Hemaima Wiramu, Pania Solomon, and our whanaunga Charlene Mawati Davis. Last week we heard from Dr. Mahinarangi Baker. Today, obviously, Pounamu Skelton. Next week, Friday the 18th of November, at 12 o'clock noon, we'll be joined by Professor Rangi Mātamua here in Te Aratawhaki. Please join us either in person or online. If you haven't registered yet, please do that also. Even if you have attended or intend to attend in person, please do register. It allows us to send you updates, send you information, and stay in touch beyond the lecture series. We would like to invite everyone into Tiki Te Uru Uru Tau for a cup of tea and coffee and some kai. And just before we do that, I'll have a karakia for us to close our day and to share our kai. Nō reira, I mua I tērā, tēnei te mihi ake rā kia koutou, koutou ko tai a tinana mai tēnei rā, ara kia koutou ki rungi te rorohiko anō hoki. Ko te tūmanako ia kia pai tā tātou rā, tai no atu ki te mutunga wiki, ko te tūmanako ia hoki kia hoki pēnei mai ai koutou a tērā wiki anō hoki. Nō reira, tēnei mātou o te whare oranga o te Wānanga o Raukawa no kia mihi atu ana kia koutou. A kāti ake, kia tau iho mai ranga manaakitanga te mea ngaro ki runga ki tēnā o tātou, kia mahi ai te hua mā kihihi, kia toi te kupu, toi te mana, toi te aroha, ana whakapaingia e rā kai hora nei, hei oranga mō mātou tinana, mō mātou wairua anō hoki. Whano, hara mai te toki, haumi e hui e, tai ki e.